In a scene in Salaar, a character says,
Wait. I need a drink. Daru hai kya?
Which is basically writer-director Prashanth Neel acknowledging that the story he's telling is so dense and so convoluted that viewers might need to knock back a few to fully process what is going on. I love that self-awareness. Salaar, which means general and refers to Prabhas's character Deva, is basically Ugramm on steroids. Prashanth takes the kernel of the story from his 2014 debut film and builds a sprawling narrative around it. One that spans over 1,000 years in film and a punishing 176 minutes in life. Once again, we have a childhood friendship with one friend growing up and working as a mechanic. Once again, a woman travels to India against her father's wishes and finds out that she is in fact wanted by several murderous men. And once again, a friend summons the other to help him achieve his grand ambitions. To this, Prashanth adds the world building he demonstrated in the KGF series. He creates a rogue state called Khansar. By rogue, I mean that it's not on the Indian map and isn't bound by Indian laws. Instead, Khansar runs by its own rules, which are written down in a book. This is a land of warring tribes. The head says, "We're all violent men." They have money, power, weapons, and dozens of henchmen who murder without pausing. But incredibly, they're all faithful to this rule book. They adhere to a ceasefire and then vote like decent citizens on whether to continue it or not, which is why this film is called Salaar Part 1, Ceasefire.
खानसार में कैलकुलेटर रख के कुछ भी कैलकुलेट नहीं कर सकते। खानसार अब लाल होगा।
Salaar is only Prashanth's fourth film, but the director has established his preferred tropes. The main being the son whose actions are micromanaged by his mother. Deva, like Rocky in the KGF series or Agastya in Ugramm, will not go against his mother's wishes. He will only raise his mighty biceps to fight injustice once his mother has given him permission. Like Atlee, Prashanth is also a lover of the backstory. So like in KGF, a part of this film is also framed as a story being told by one character to another. Working with cinematographer Bhuvan Gowda, Prashanth again creates a monochromatic world in hues of blacks and greys. A coal mine plays a starring role, and of course his signature non-linear intercutting storytelling style stays in place. As does the extensive use of slow motion and Ravi Basroor's thundering music. The BGM elevates the high decibel narrative to even higher. Prashanth is a self-professed fan of the Bachchan films of the 1970s and the way in which basic human emotions can make for larger-than-life drama. His creative genes don't include the strand for subtlety. Salaar alternates between elevated notes and even more elevated notes. Characters literally shake because they're so possessed by their feelings. Ishwari Rao, who also plays the beleaguered mother in KGF 2, is so grim as Deva's mother that it borders on comical. Everyone proclaims rather than speaks, every beat is dialed up to 11. But here's the thing, Prashanth pulls it off. In interviews, he often says that he's in the movies for money. But I think that means that he's invested in telling his stories to the widest audience possible. Salaar is much too long and very exhausting, but it's never lazy. Prashanth, who's also written the story, keeps adding twists and flourishes and more exposition. There are long stretches when the film becomes tedious, especially in the second half. But then Prashanth grabs the momentum by bunging in an action sequence staged with such a skilled mix of elaborate choreography and emotion that you have to applaud. There is one in which Deva becomes this godlike figure, which is just staggering. Prashanth also gives Prabhas his groove back. Post-Bahubali, the actor has sleepwalked through sloppy films like Saho and Radhesham. But here, Prashanth puts Prabhas's granite body language and his understated manner to great use. Deva doesn't have the swag or style of Rocky Bhai. There are no tailored suits on display. His strength is quieter, more blunt. In fact, through the film, Deva keeps holding back, and that weight only makes his eventual explosion so much more pleasurable to watch. Prithviraj Sukumaran as the best friend, Vardaraja, brings acting chops and heft to the role. There is this bit in which Deva teases Vardaraja about not being able to bludgeon more men, and then both get into this sort of murdering contest. The killing veers into cartoonish, but their camaraderie is terrific. And it's lovely that Prithviraj, who is a major star, isn't squeamish about being Prabhas's support in terms of the narrative. This is a world high on testosterone, and the women mostly alternate between being Mother India-style mythic figures or bait for the villains. Shruti Haasan spends a lot of the little screen time she has waiting to be rescued or listening to the story of her rescuer. I also wish the supporting characters had more flesh on them. Jagapati Babu is solid as one of Khansar's key power players, but the others have little impact. One of the many heads of the tribes actually plots revenge by nurturing this army of drug addicts who will bite a man to death. At one point, they're all attacking like zombies. It's moments like this where Salaar seems to be pushing the limits of suspension of disbelief. Obviously, you aren't meant to ask too many questions or look too hard for logic. The chronology moves from 1985 to 2017, but there are also references to ancient times. At one point, mercenaries from Serbia and Sudan make an appearance. Khansar seems medieval in its mores, but it also has its own flight schedule. Essentially, this is Prashanth's world, and it works to his rationale. Is Salaar over the top? Yes, unapologetically so. Is it confusing? Yes. This is one of those films that should have come with its own kunji, those guidebooks for dummies. But will I be back for part 2? Absolutely.